for tuning in. Today, I'm joined by my friend Natalie, who's going to share with us her birth story. If you caught my last YouTube video, you know that I've been doing a segment about birth stories, and I started with my own. The reason why I think it's important to do this segment is because a huge part of my job as a birth doula is to help people debrief and understand their birth stories. So, to many, this looks like sharing it over and over again, uninterrupted, so that they can process whatever feelings they experienced during their birth. For me, I've told my story many times and I'm still processing it. So, I think it's important to give a platform for other people to give that a try as well. So, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us and for being brave enough to share your story. Maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Hello, my name is Natalie. I'm a mom, author, and wife, and I'm passionate about personal growth, women empowerment, yoga, and connecting with nature and my community.
Is there somewhere on the internet where the listeners can find you on social media or something?
You can find me on Instagram at the Free Bumblebee. This is where I share my arts and crafts, including yoga and original uplifting spiritual content. You can also find my children's book on Amazon, The World is Big and So Are You. It's a must-have bilingual book for your kids' bookshelf. It promotes diversity, inclusion, and a love for nature, so go check it out.
I do love your Instagram. It does inspire me as well. And Natalie mentioned that she wrote a children's book and illustrated, which is really cool. So you should definitely go check out her book. I'm going to link her social media and where you can find her book in the description below. But in the meantime, we can jump right into your birth story. So I'm going to give you however long you need of uninterrupted time to tell your story, and then we'll catch up with questions and stuff whenever you're done.
I loved my pregnancy. It was truly a bliss, minus the occasional honey pullover right now. I need to throw up while driving around. But all in all, it was really a wonderful time. At the time, I worked for an immigration firm near DC. I remember a week after my last day at the office, I got some highlights done at the salon, which is something that has been said to induce labor. That same night, my husband, fiance at the time, decided to take us to a spicy Mexican restaurant. Another thing that is said to induce labor. Maybe it was coincidence, maybe not. But that night after dinner, I began to have major tooth pain in my lower wisdom teeth, as well as minor contractions. So I made a warm bath to see if it would soothe my aches. Later that night, I was getting ready to go to sleep. I got up from the bed to brush my teeth, and as soon as I walked into the bathroom, my water broke. It burst open like a water gate. Immediately, Brandon rushed over from the bed into the bathroom in confusion and asked if that had been my water. Yes, my water just broke, I assured him. Moments later, I began to feel really strong contractions like I hadn't had before. And that's when I knew my daughter had had enough and wanted to come out into this world already. As many couples usually do, Brandon and I did a tour of our birthing hospital a few months prior to our delivery date, just to make sure that we knew where the facility, the parking lot, the maternity unit, etc. was located. We were instructed to call the hospital when my contractions were 5 minutes apart, on or around my due date, to let them know that we would be on our way. When Brandon asked them what would happen if we just went to our designated hospital as we'd planned, they said that I was gonna have to give birth in the hallway because they were kept out. My husband didn't have time to argue. I was already experiencing what I thought were enormous contractions. And all he wanted to do was to get me to the hospital right away. We grabbed the delivery bags we'd prepared in advance and headed out the door. And you can just imagine how fast my husband was speeding down the highway as I was going through the waves of contractions. Since Brandon didn't know where the maternity unit was, he pulled up to the ER, which led us to a very dark and empty looking building. We parked in front of the ER doors where Brandon explained to the security guard that I was about to give birth. Moments later, he came over with a wheelchair and rushed me to the maternity unit. At around 2:30 a.m., about an hour after arriving to the hospital, I received an epidural, which instantly relieved me. Every so often, my doctors would check on me to see how much I dilated, but after 5 hours, I still was only at around 3 centimeters. The doctors then decided to give me Pitocin. At around 1 p.m. the next afternoon, I was still only at 6 centimeters, and that's when things took a turn for the worse. The CTG began to show that my daughter's heart rate was significantly dropping with each contraction I was having. Hearing her heart rate go from dun 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 to ton, ton was incredibly intense. One of the nurses came into the room and told me that I had to have an emergency C-section, otherwise my baby would not make it. And to be honest, that had to be one of the scariest moments in my life. Everything happened so quickly after that. I gave the yes to the doctors to go through with the emergency C-section. Then I was transferred to the surgical room where I was given anesthesia from the belly downward. And finally, Brandon came into the room to support me moments before the procedure began. Finally, after hearing her crying, we were relieved, and nothing else mattered. It turns out the umbilical cord had gotten wrapped around her neck, and each contraction I was having was pulling the cord even tighter. At the end of the day, she was a rock star. She made it, and she was the sweetest thing to have ever happened to us.
Thank you for sharing. I know that sometimes when you have experiences that aren't what you expected them to be, it can be hard to share them and it can be really vulnerable. So I really appreciate that you shared with us. What advice would you give to another person who's going to be giving birth?
I strongly believe that women should have more education about birth and birthing options from their healthcare providers. I also believe that yoga is extremely helpful in preparing for labor and postpartum. Not only does it prepare and strengthen the body for labor, but also strengthens and prepares the mind. The breathing techniques that go along with movement in yoga are key to helping you push through your birthing experience, quite literally, whatever it may look like.
Yoga is a fantastic tool, and then just being prepared for everything. It's always good to have a plan A, B, and C, probably. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's been so nice talking to you.
Thanks so much, Pei, for having me and providing a safe space for me to share my story with others. Again, you can find me on Instagram at thefreebumblebee or at thefreebumblebee@gmail.com. You can email me there. I really hope to hear from you soon. Namaste.